Hey, welcome to Monkey Chatter. Amy, Lara, and I are all here to talk about setting intentions for the new year. And of course, we were talking before we started recording, so we're already kind of
Shocker.
into it. So we will try and catch you all up. Setting intentions is something that I've done for a lot of years with the help of my coach, Lorin who was on one of our podcasts when we did the three coaches in a row there. So if you want to go back and check those out, they were really good interviews. Yeah, what were they?
14, 15. I'll look.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And but Lauren is the one who sort of got me started, and she uses um, sort of it's a wheel that's cut up into like pie pieces. I think 8 different slices, and in the middle is your intention for the entire year, and then each little slice of the pie represents each part of your life, career, money, relationships, that kind of thing. And so it started out where it was basically setting your goals, and as she moved away from a big focus on goal setting in her coaching, she changed up how she handled her new year conversations. And so it's shifted to this setting of intentions. So I like that a lot better because I have some sort of weird thing about goals. And Amy was talking a little bit about um, how she's been in sort of go, go, go mode the last few years. And that's sort of the energy of when you set a goal, right? Because if you set a goal, you're supposed to accomplish the goal. And if you don't, basically you fail, right? Because you didn't meet your goal. So it has a really different energy than um, setting the intention of how you want to go about reaching the goal, if that makes sense. Does that make sense, you guys? Am I making sense?
It does.
Yeah, totally.
It does.
Am I
And
making sense?
I did look. Lauren is episode 15 for anybody
Oh,
who wants
great.
to go back
Thank
and
you.
listen.
Yeah. So that's sort of where gosh, I'm such a resistant little creature. Like, I really am. And I remember even in that episode, I was like, God, I'm such a difficult client because I I just goals just annoyed me. Like, I see the value of them. I really do, right? And I've always set some goals, but I just find them irritating. So when she the whole idea of, I don't know, but when she shifted the focus onto, it's more around how you want to be as you go about achieving the goal. And so she sort of backs into it, which is kind of fun. Like, okay, so let's say your goal is to, I don't know, lose 50 pounds, right? Let's say that it's a weight loss goal. And instead of like this, okay, write down the goal, there's your goal for the year, good luck, see you later, check back in next December. We'll see how you did. And usually those are the ones that, just doesn't usually work for people.
Mhm.
So she kind of backs her clients into it. And I'm probably crucifying this, but she'll forgive me. But it's more like, okay, so you have this goal of wanting to lose this weight. Let's say you lost the weight, right? We're a year ahead. You've lost the weight. How do you feel? Like, what is the feeling of having done that? And so that gives you some information on, what your intention truly is. It's not truly to lose the 50 pounds. It's to, let's say, I'll make something up. It's to feel more powerful, right? To feel more confident, to uh, move more easily through your day, right? So that's really what you're after, right? So your intention isn't to lose 50 pounds. Your intention is to move more easily in your body, or to, whatever it is. So it was a nice way to, because I think we all kind of, I shouldn't say that, cancel that. I can't assume that everybody does the same thing, but we've been raised a bit around these goals. So we, smart goals, right? They have to be, I forget what they are now.
Specific, measurable,
Specific, measurable,
attainable,
realistic, and time bound.
Thank you. Yes.
Is that it?
So, we have sort of most people have a frame of reference for that, for their goals. And yeah, it doesn't, I don't know, that's never left me feeling like warm and fuzzy about it. It gives me anxiety, irritation, and annoyance, and lots of resistance, right? So yeah, so switching, and I've had years where I've had really, really good, like I've set a really good annual intention, and that becomes my touchstone for all my decisions, right? So one year, and Amy got me an amazing framed oh, this was so great. One year it was trust the liminal space, and I got really like into liminality and what liminal meant and all of that. But I would use that
I
as
had
a
to look that
touchstone.
word up.
Yeah, it's an awesome word, isn't it? It's like a great word. So that was a year when I had an annual intention that really served me. Like I would get in a bind or be trying to make a decision, and I'd be like, okay, right? Like my intention is to trust the liminal space. So what would that intention have me do in this moment? Anyway, so that's
I love that practicality of the intention, because like you said, it's informing your decisions as the year goes on. So it's not like a hard goal, like you said, that you have to measure and like keep track of. And like in 6 months, you're going to panic because you're not even close to being where you should be. But the idea that the intention that you set is a touchstone, you said, I think you used the word touchstone, Michelle.
yes,
And I love it. And then every time you're like, okay, wait, is this going to put me in the right frame of mind to match my intention? Or yeah. I love that. That's a good way of looking at it.
And so, like I said, yeah, some years are great. Like, and Amy's had a couple of like really good years.
I think
and
the
then
year
some
you
years
did that,
like I can't even remember what I'm like, oh, well, clearly that was just a crappy intention. Like I didn't really dig deep for that one. But there have been some years, I could pull them. Yeah, like be still. That was a great one for me. Yeah. Amy, tell us about yours, because I love yours.
Well, I was going to say, and I think that was the same year that you did the liminal space, because I have a sign hanging here in my office with mine, and it was to live fearlessly motivated. It was 2021 was the year that.
Right after coming out of COVID. Yep.
And yeah, that year and I think it's going to be total opposite this year. But that year, the intention was to live fearlessly motivated, and I said yes to like so many things. Like I did so many I did my first duathlon, my first triathlon, my first 100-mile bike ride.
Gosh.
What else? My first CrossFit competition, like all kinds of stuff that year. And I was like, if somebody asked me to do it and it kind of scared me a little and I didn't know what I was doing, I was like, yes, we're doing it. So that was a pretty rockin' year. Like I have some great pictures from that year, and actually I have a bunch of them hanging up in my hallway, and I'm like, oh yeah, that year. That was good. And this year I think it's going to be to say no.
Yeah, we need to work on that. We need to come up with so that it really resonates.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be closer to be still.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't do very well being
What
still.
was the thing we were talking about before for you about stillness or
rest
intentionally?
Yeah.
Find intentional rest.
Yeah. All of that does make me slightly
twitchy.
Well, that's good. So
that's what I'm kind of going for, but I'm like,
yeah,
that's
what I was just gonna say. Like you're like fearlessly motivated. If it scared you, you said yes. So this scares you too in a different way. So
Yeah, it's a whole different. But yeah, I think I'm just tired of running around and like half-assing everything and going from here to there and trying to dabble in everything and not doing a very good job at any of it. And yeah, so yeah, something along those lines and like just being a little bit more focused.
Amy, how do you set, like, I know Michelle kind of uses the wheel concept. Like, how do you typically go about coming up with that set of words or the phrase that you want to like focus on for the next year?
I don't know because I've only done it a few times since Michelle started making me.
That's our coach.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
yeah, I think it's just kind of like the feeling that I have, like, so I feel like it's just the feeling that I have in the last like 2 months of the year or something. Like whatever I'm kind of feeling then is what I go into the next year with typically. I don't know,
Mhm.
in the few years that I've done anything with it.
Do you think so, Amy? Do you think doing it has been helpful?
Yeah, I mean, definitely 2021 was
Yeah.
yeah, and I don't remember what 22 or 23 were
Isn't
actually.
it? Like I have that too. Like
Yeah.
I'll have years. Like I said, there are some. I think there's lots of benefit to the exercise, right? To even just start thinking before the new year, like it's something to give your mind to work on, right? Lara, you were talking about mindset, right? So
Yeah.
so even just having the practice
Mm,
gives you like permission or instruction or the idea that you should be somehow consciously creating what comes in the new year. So even if what you pick is, kind of falls by the wayside, like I said, I've been doing this probably almost, God, 20, at least 20 years, right?
Mhm.
And I probably have five that I could pull out and say, these I really used and these made a huge difference. But I
Mhm.
think even in the years that I'm like, oh, well, clearly I don't even remember those. So I'm not sure what
yeah,
happened, but
my one for this year was Simply Relentless.
Mm.
And
Ah.
I feel like
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I started out the year pretty good. Like I knew it was going to be a pretty rough year.
Mm,
And I was like, no matter what, you have got to get like, and I knew I was doing all those ultras and all of that stuff. And I was like, you've got to get in your head that you're going to do this regardless. And I feel like I did pretty good until like September. And
mm,
then something happened and we were talking like before we started recording like on the whole mindset, but something just got a little screwy in my mindset and I was like, what happened to this? What
mm.
happened to me? Why can I not convince myself to be relentless anymore?
Maybe you
So
were too relentless and now you're burnt out.
I don't know.
Right. Well, and
I don't know.
sometimes it is just that way, right? Like it serves you until it doesn't,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then I think that's part of it too, is like to I feel so differently when I set intentions as opposed to back in the day when you made a New Year's
Mm.
resolution, right?
Yes, me too.
Right? Like the setting the intention doesn't have that like pass fail thing, right?
Yeah.
Like there's all kinds of nuance and like it serves you as long as it serves you, and then if it doesn't, okay, well, done, moving on. Like, yeah, then you start to think about, okay, what does the next look like, because you could change them whenever, um yeah. Lara,
So
so
Lara, what
Lara,
about you? Yeah,
yeah,
I was
what do
gonna
you
say
do?
you've
Like,
been
do you
like
have a ritual for the new for like what do you do?
Haven't been very good about it other than I have a long time ago I quit setting or making resolutions. And I know we talked about this in a really early episode, probably after like at the first of the year,
mhm.
because this is sounding like deja vu a little bit. But um I remember just thinking like that, yeah, there's some stat that's really high. It's like really high, like 80 or 90% of people don't keep resolutions that they make for New Year's. And so probably about 5 or 6 years ago, I decided to just set intentions for how I wanted to be or feel for the next year. So whether it was like, I want to be more creative or I want to be more active, it wasn't like you said, it probably wasn't very measurable.
Right? It's not that. Yeah.
Right. So I don't know how successful my initial attempts at intention were,
Mm.
but I know when you and I started talking, because Michelle and I worked together a little bit, and I did that wheel with you, that really focused in on the parts of my life that I wanted this intention to affect. I don't remember what the intention was that year. I think I had a more like a word or a phrase.
Yep.
But I was talking about mindset before we recorded because I've noticed the last several months I had a real big shift in my mindset, and I had to actively change my mindset because it wasn't serving me. And by that, I mean, I was kind of operating from a place that I'm not normally operating from, which is, more of like a lack mentality or, kind of woe is me. Why is this happening? Like, I can't handle all this. And it kind of just like I worked hard. It wasn't easy, but I set a totally different intention to focus on gratitude and abundance. And I actually did a gratitude practice with Cheryl Wolverton, who she is another guest that we had on. So she would have been around the same time that Lorin was on.
Yeah, I think she was 16.
She
I think
did
she
like a
was
14-day gratitude practice where you got a text and an email every day and you could journal about it. And then I went and did like an insight timer course that was focused on manifestation and the idea of manifestation, how related it is to abundance and gratitude. And gratitude is kind of like the foundation for all of that. And so kind of slowly, like overdoing all that, I just noticed little things happening. It was like, the universe is just dropping little things in my lap here and there, and everything started to go right, if you will. And so it was like a really powerful example of how mindset affects what's happening in your life. And maybe it's more that it's what's happening in your life doesn't affect you in ways that could be construed negative because you have a mindset of abundance and gratitude as opposed to lack or, victim mentality. So it's work, but I've really enjoyed working on it the last few months. And so I feel like I'm going to take that into the new year with me. And because I feel like I'm heading into the year with some big challenges, but they're exciting and fun. And so I'm going to take that whole mentality of that positive mindset, the abundance, the gratitude. And no matter what happens, I can always focus on those things because I can always find those things. Like I think Amy said, like, I might have been earlier, Amy, before we were recording, but you said, I just need some quiet time in the woods. But that's like something you can be so grateful for. And it doesn't really cost anything for most people to go find a little wooded area and just sit quietly or walk. Yeah. So I think that's where I'm going with my intention, but I don't have a method. Like, I'm kind of curious if you have a method. Journaling, I've not been a good journaler. Like, I'm just not good at it. So I've been really trying hard and I'm practicing journaling and I'm starting to enjoy it. So we'll see how long that lasts. That should be my resolution.
So I've been really lucky that, Lorin has a call every year where, well, the first time I ever did it, we did it in person, and so she used to do that kind of thing. But she does like a group Zoom call every year. It's always on the first Friday in December, I think. I feel like that sounds right, or it used to be. And her thinking being, do it before Christmas, do it before the first of the year. Because if you're doing it at the first of the year or after the first of the year, you're playing catch up already, right? So you're like, it's so much nicer to sort of get that done, give some thought to it. And I used to like take the afternoon off, take the day off or whatever, so I could do the call and then sit with my wheel. And process wise, you kind of start out by, even though I hate goals, you start out by, picking a couple um, of goals that you have sort of in each slice, maybe, or one goal or whatever, but setting an intention really for each slice of your life. And then as you're sort of going through that process, because I mean, there are some years like I'm like, oh, I'm just never mind, that slice gets no, I'm sorry, can't do it this year. There will be no goal setting in whatever, but through the course of doing that, it's that annual intention, the big one, like what really wants to, sort of inform how you go forward, it just sort of rises to the surface. And I think with Amy, like when we started playing around with that a little bit, it really was more of like a brains, like most people have an idea, like they kind of know, even if they're trying to push it down and like, no, 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 I can't do that one. A lot of the times they really know. And just brainstorming with somebody else, and like grabbing a thesaurus or Googling, like, so I think relentless, right? We were trying to come up with something, right? Like, what is that word? Because yeah, and then, just
And
through
then
the process of that.
I was gonna say, and then like I was trying to like describe it, but of course, like words, it's not really my thing.
You did just
And,
fine. You came up with some good ones.
but then Jesse Itzler, if you guys follow him,
Yep.
he
Seen him.
is, I don't know, used to own he's married to Sarah, whatever, that had Spanx,
Oh, yeah.
and
Oh,
I don't know, they owned like a basketball team and just all kinds of stuff. Anyway, he does some really cool stuff, like some cool physical challenges and just different things. And he put something out about relentless, and I was like, that's
That's
the
it.
word.
Right?
So yeah,
Yeah.
it took a while to sort that
So
out.
I think that's kind of the process, Lara, is really, it's more like Amy said, she starts a couple months before, like it's sort of just a sloshing around in your brain. And like you clearly are sort of mostly there already. Like, it's around mindset, it's around abundance, and like even talking to you, like it's there, the pieces are there. And
yeah.
so, then it's just sort of asking or being willing to have a phrase or a word sort of come to the surface. And when like when Amy got the fearlessly motivated, like that,
Hmm.
she knew,
I actually
Yeah.
have that printed on. I have a little, I don't know if you can see it, a little thing on my watch band.
And it
It's like
says
emergency
fearlessly motivated.
contact and stuff. And on the bottom, I have the live fearlessly motivated. Like that's engraved on
Oh,
the
wow. Yeah.
on it. Like
Yeah.
that one definitely really stuck.
And when Lorin does these, and she's actually doing an in-person retreat on the East Coast on Friday. So we're recording this, and so by the time it's released, I will have already done it. But she's doing one in person, so I signed up for that because it's been a long time since I've actually sat down for a few hours with a really good. That helps too, right? If you have a really good coach who can, um, pull things out of you and really try to dig into some of this stuff. So I'm really looking forward to that. That'll be kind of a nice way to close out the year and start 2025.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm a
So,
fan.
like, what kind of tips can you throw out there, like just for our listeners who like maybe have never done this and maybe don't have a coach?
Yeah,
I love what you just said. Like maybe this time, like you look back on the last few months of the year and say like, you know, what was I feeling? What was I desiring? What do I want more of for the next year? Like, and then like what kind of next steps are there?
yeah. So for me, it really helps if and as I mentioned before, if it's something I want to do, like let's say you want, I don't know, a new job or something. So if it goes back to that question, okay, so if I'm taught, if I get that, and so next December, if I've achieved that, if that has happened, how do I feel? Right? Because that flips back and can be your intention, right?
Mhm.
So, because it comes back to, and you were talking about it with mindset, it's sort of acting as if, right?
Mm.
So if your intention is to step forward with confidence, let's say, or to
Well, that's a
lose
good one.
weight,
I
you
steal
know,
that.
yes. So that starts to inform, because that's really what you're after with the new job, is to step forward in confidence, but you don't have to wait for the new job. You can do everything you do with that intention, right? So when it comes to a choice that you have to make, do I do X or do I do Y? Okay. If I intentionally step forward with confidence, what would that choose, right?
Mm-hmm.
That, would that choose this way or that way? Um, and you start to play. I think sometimes, we think of the big things like the new job, losing 50 pounds. And really, if you start to play with your whatever intention you set with the tiny things, right? It doesn't have to be a big thing. It can just be every day, right? Like, um, if my intention for the year is to be still, like that year, like I used that a lot with, like, I would wake up and be, let's say, anxious, right? Because I tend toward anxiety, right? Like that's my sort of default. So, okay, I'm feeling X. My intention for the day is to be still.
Mm.
Right. So if I start from that place, I was doing much better about like being still that year, like before I got out of bed, right? Like I wasn't like woo, woo, woo with the thoughts. So it can be something as simple as that. Be still was good because I could use that for everything. Like before I woofed down my food, right? Like I would eat in the car driving. I'm like, okay, this is crazy. Like seriously, pull
Yeah,
over and be still
I
and
like
eat
that.
real food, right? Like those, and that starts to really change your life, It yeah. So things like that. And it doesn't have to be something gigantic, but over time, you know, it your whole year starts to just feel differently. Yeah. Yeah.
So I kind of want to throw out something about journaling since it's top of my mind just because I've
Mhm.
been practicing journaling and also because I listened to another podcast. It was Mel Robbins and she
Yeah.
had on this neuroscientist and I shared it with both of you guys. But if anybody's looking for it, it's a recent one that Mel Robbins had, and she had a guest, Dr. Jim Doty, and I think it's Doty, and he's a neuroscientist and a neurosurgeon at Stanford, and he's does a whole bunch of other things. But at any rate, he talked about manifestation and how manifestation is real and it's not like some woo-woo concept like a lot of people think it is. And some people take it to the extreme woo-woo, and other people look at it from a more scientific basis. And of course, he's a neuroscience scientist, so he's looking at it from a brain standpoint. But he talks about, things you can do to manifest what you want to happen in your life. And obviously, it's not always going to happen exactly like you want, but it will happen. And it does go up back to mindset. But he talks about how the importance of putting pen to paper and writing things down and then saying them out loud and then saying them to yourself.
Mm.
And it's basically rewiring the neural pathways in your brain when you do those three things. So I
Yeah.
thought that was super fascinating. And so I'm going to work all of that into my plan for next year or, going into next year. But I think I struggle if I don't have anybody prompting me. Like
Okay.
I'll just be like, what would I write about? Like, what am I going to write about? Like I would probably get
Wow.
rut.
Well, listen, so okay, so many cool. So first of all, I'm a huge journaler. Like literally, I could go pull a journal off my thing, probably from my 20s.
Oh my gosh.
Like I have although I did burn a bunch of them because there are just things that people, I'm like, if I were to die or something, like, people just don't need to know this stuff. But
Was that with other the journals where the bodies are buried? Is that
pretty much, yeah, the journals have like all it's really, and yeah, oh, yeah. Anyway, so I've always been a huge journaler, and probably I should sit down one day and really start to pull some things out that really were like, wow, that was really good. Every once in a while, I'll just be like that year that I was all into liminality and all of that. Oh my gosh, I was doing all kinds of research on liminal space, and like I have all these great notes. And I mean, I have a whole notebook full of like liminal thoughts and all of that. Anyway, but yes, I think one of the things when I first started this whole personal development journey, like years and years ago, I don't even remember what it was or which woo woo person I was into at the time. But one of the things they said was write down like 3 things that you want to achieve for the year. This was much more back in the goal based days. And just put it on a 3x5 card or something and put it away and don't look at it again. And I did that. I literally wrote 3 things on a 3x5 card, put it in my wallet, and then never looked at it again, and pulled it out. I don't even know if it was at the end of the year. Like, I kind of forgot about it. And the 3 things, it was an amount of money I wanted to make for that year. I wanted to learn how to ski. And there was one other thing, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but I had done those things. And
just because of the subconscious suggestion?
And I never looked at it like I didn't, it wasn't like I pulled it out every day or any of that. But they say that even just that, it just, yeah. So I'm a huge
manifestation.
Yeah, I'm a huge believer.
Yeah.
Although I'm not one of those folks that thinks that can happen without action.
Yeah, the course I just took, there was a whole day focused on,
you gotta do something, right? Like, it's not like, oh, I'm gonna, and then you just sit on your couch and eat ice cream, like, watch Netflix all day. Like, that's not gonna work, I was just, before we sat down, I always have like Wayne Dyer, that Power of Intention book.
Yeah.
And I just opened, I was like, oh, let me just open it and see what it opens to. It was when you were talking about abundance and all of that. And it opened to initiate actions that support your feelings of abundance and success. Here, the key word is actions. And he talks about acting as if, or thinking from the end. And that's kind of how Lorin, backs you into the intention. If you accomplish this thing, how will you feel? Right. So thinking from the end, like you've already accomplished the thing, and then act that way. Right. Do something. Speak to strangers with passion in your voice. Answer the phone in an inspired way. Do a job interview from a place of confidence and joy. Read the books and that mysteriously show up, right? Pay close attention to conversations that seem to indicate you're being called to something new. And I was like, oh, well, there you go. And like, when you think about manifesting and like the universe and all of that, I'm like, literally, I just opened the page. I didn't know what you were going to talk about. And I'm like, oh, look at Lara talking about abundance. Isn't that great? Lines up really well with my thing. But that's the thing too. And I think that's something that that people get wrong, I think, a lot when you talk about manifestation, that like somehow you're just gonna write it down on a piece of paper and
it's gonna magically appear.
Yeah, right. I want to make $500,000 or whatever, and like you don't do anything. You just keep
doing the same thing you've always done. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you do the same thing, you're going to get the same result. So something has to change too. Like, you have to, what is that? Preparation meets, what is that saying?
Oh, I know what you mean. I can't. Think
Oh,
of it though.
oh well. Amy, do you know
No.
what that is? When
No, I was thinking of the definition of insanity as doing the
the
same
same
thing.
thing over and over again.
But
And
no,
Yeah, expecting different results.
yeah,
yeah.
I'll think of it. Anyway, blah, 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 blah. Yes, journal. So at the end of the day, write shit down, but then you have to, as Lauren would say, you have to move your feet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. So write it down and say it to yourself and say it out loud and then do something about it, even
Yep.
if it's something little. And that goes to, I mean, that goes back to everything everything Amy's always talked about, not to mention the name of your business, Amy.
Bit by bit. Yep.
Bit by bit. Yeah. You just like keep taking those steps
Mhm.
forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Amy knows a lot about that.
people don't want to do that because we're like the Amazon society. It should just
Yes.
show up the next day.
Yeah. And then we get upset when we try to buy something and it takes 3 days. We're like,
Yeah.
dang it.
Right?
I
Right?
need it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole shift in the way that we as consumers that we do things now, I think really does set us up for kind of like thinking we don't have to make as much effort.
Well, and you know, the other thing too, I was talking to, I have a really good therapist too. And we were talking and she was like, okay, a big part of the challenge here is your expectations, right? So,
Uh,
right? So that's part of it too, I think, is especially when we're laying expectation on other things, right? Like other people or
uh,
right? Like
yeah,
when what we want is tied, we need somebody else to do something to deliver what it is we want, right? And then we get mad,
yeah.
right? Or frustrated or yeah.
I
So
think we just
I
talked
have
about
a
this.
teacher. She's a yoga teacher, but she's also a licensed, clinical social worker. She's a therapist, and she does workshops on yoga retreats that I've been on. And she's currently doing this thing. Her name is Cindy Reed. She's currently doing this little thing where once a week she gives us tools to kind of navigate through difficulty or, just in general what's going on in the world or what we're dealing with personally. But the rules are the same. And one of the things she's talked about now for a couple of weeks is this locus of control. The locus of control, shout out Cindy Reed, basically shows you like there's the middle circle, which is your actions, and the things that you can control. And then there's like these other circles, which are like other people,
the
weather,
weather, right?
yeah, like
The
people,
world, right?
other people's thoughts, other people's what they say, like all those things that are around the main circle that you do not have control of. And so you just have to remember to put your focus in the circles that you do have control of, namely
which,
yourself.
which
Mhm.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's
We
really
just talked about
interesting. And
this
that
in the last
good for me.
podcast, like when we were talking about the Stoic stuff
oh
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
all of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all, and that's part of it too. Like it's all great in theory. It is, let's just call a spade a spade. Like execution is really the name of the game, and it is not always easy.
Yeah, that is so true. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, and we all have like our own little, focuses.
Yeah.
And like I always think about in that, and probably most of what I learned about mindfulness I learned from her too, Cindy Reed. But it's like, to me, I have really like, so this is a good example. I spent 2 hours today at the county clerk's office.
Oh,
Majority of that was standing in line and getting out of line because they asked me to move my car because it was getting an inspection, and then I had to come back and get back at the end of the line even though they told me I didn't.
they
And
lie.
I used all these a couple of yoga techniques, one for
Mhm.
standing because standing can be hard on your body and it doesn't feel good, and two, mindfulness and focusing on my breath because a couple times I wanted to have words. And, I was like, there's people around here, and, I don't know what it is about the county clerk's office, but it brings out everybody. It's a Monday, people. Like, it was on a Monday that we
Yeah.
record on Mondays. Anyways, so yeah. And I just found myself using all these little tools that I had learned. And I was like, yay, me. I'm so proud of myself. I didn't cuss anybody out. I was super kind to everybody around me. Even the person that originally asked me to move my car, and I couldn't figure out why. And the results were good. Like, in the end, I got what I needed. So
And I think
yeah, execution is everything if you can.
and that's where, if you set that intention, like that, those situations are where it can come in really handy as well, right? Like, it gives you one more sort of tool in the mindfulness toolbox, right? Like, and so when you do, Lorin, for everybody who does her thing, she has a little leather bracelet made that has your intention on it. And so I took mine off when I got home today, but I wear that thing, and I look down and I'm like, okay, this is your intention. Just suck it up. Here's what you're gonna do, right? Like, and my intention for this year was release. So kind of around, like letting go of things. Um, physical, as well as, like, I'm thinking about the county clerk's office, right? So I'd be like, look, like, okay, Michelle, release, like, you don't, and even just like saying the word, I can feel my shoulders drop.
Yeah.
Like, release, right? So
I clench my jaw a lot, and I hear Cindy's voice in my head saying, release your jaw, relax your tongue inside your mouth. The minute I do that, I'm like,
oh, yeah, like, that's better. So I think these are all like setting an intention, like, really at the end of the day, it's just one more, hopefully useful tool in a difficult situation.
yes. Yeah, exactly. Having an intention to inform your day-to-day decisions, to me, is so much more valuable than setting a long-term goal or just making a resolution to stop doing something bad.
Right.
Yeah. Because you'll stop doing it for about a month. And then you'll be like, I'm done with that.
Yeah. And they can go hand in hand, right? So I know, Amy's really, really good with goals. Like, I've been around Amy long enough to know that really informs a lot of how, Amy operates. At least that's my impression of you after all these years. However, I think
That's
what
my
is super useful.
best thing.
Right? Yeah, is like making you twitchy. So you should definitely be doing that. But I think they go hand in hand, right? Because if you achieve, when you set a goal, if you achieve it, how many times? So this is where I got really annoyed with goals. Like, because I would invariably set them, achieve them, because I came from that kind of background, right? You set the goal, you achieve the goal, chop, chop, check it off, move on. And I was like, I would do that. And I'm like, I don't feel better. Like, I'm not happier. I'm not, this didn't, now I just need to set another one. So I got really disillusioned with goals. And that's where I think the intentions really help. Like, have it not be so much, because then if you fail and you don't achieve the goal, then you feel like a failure. And that just negates all that energy and effort. I think about you, Amy, having to, like, not do that race this year, right? Like, if there wasn't some benefit or some achievement in just the preparation and the process of getting to that point, I mean, and you correct me if I'm wrong, like, I know it was disappointing, but did you feel like, oh, well, that was just a waste?
No, it definitely was not a waste. It sucked. But
Yeah.
it was not a it was definitely not a waste. No. I learned a lot of things this year about ultra running. So yeah.
See, that's great. Like, hearing that makes me totally a believer that when you combine the intention with the goal setting, that's what makes the whole thing work. Because you're right, like, not every goal is gonna get met. Let's hope that's you're trying.
Well,
That's
and a lot of the times, you know what? Isn't life super much more interesting? Like you're like, oh well, crap. That's California seemed like a really good idea, but I am really loving Nevada. Like I don't need to go any further. I got the goal was California, but I met the love of my life in Nevada, and staying here, right? So like sometimes I guess it goes back to that old saying that it's, not about the destination, it's about the
the
journey.
journey. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I think that's and if you're setting the intention that and that's kind of giving you, I guess, I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know if that's coming out right. I'm
It gives you
not
some like,
clarifying.
yeah, it gives you something to bring. I think it helps to bring value to the process, to
Yeah,
the journey.
okay.
We're not culturally designed to really place the value there. And so by setting an intention, it gives you permission, it allows you to give that some weight and some meaning regardless of whether the goal gets achieved.
Or if the goal changes, like you said, like at
Yeah.
some point you may decide, okay, my goal was here, but now that I've done all this processing and work to get there, I've decided, well, maybe it's a little to the left instead of a
Yeah.
little to the right, or it's a
Exactly.
little different than I initially thought. And that's okay too.
Well, think about how many people go go to college, right? And they're like they go and they pick their major,
Yeah.
and they don't like halfway through they know they don't want to be a lawyer or they don't want to be a whatever, and they just keep going because yeah, like, and would have been so much better off if they just went, yeah, no, I think I'm going to major in, art history instead. I don't know, whatever it is.
People who have a degree and they're not working in the field that they went to school at all. Like I hear that all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Like there, and that's okay. Like if we would just let go of that a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lara, I hear, is that your cat?
Cat thing.
Yes.
Whoop, there's a
Cat
cat
is on
thing.
the
Yes, she seconds that idea, Michelle.
I like it.
Live like a cat.
Oh yeah, I'm all about that.
Oh.
Amy, say something.
Meow.
I feel like I haven't heard enough Amy today. Say some things.
Oh, I don't really. You guys are doing good.
Say some things. So where are you in your process for 2025?
In my process of like
Your intention setting.
picking an intention. Yeah. No, again, I feel like I kind of have the grand theme of it, but Lara, you have a cat going out your head.
There's a tail coming out your ear.
Oh
my God, how cute.
But yeah, not actually picked the word or words yet. And I think it's gonna take me a few moments to get over the twitchiness of like, is that really? Because I am fairly goal oriented. Like it's gonna be really hard. Like I'm gonna feel like a total slacker. Like to not have like this year I had okay, the 9-hour run is in February, the 50 miler is in May, the 62 is in June, the 24 hours in October. Like
so you need some
yeah.
You know what I would love? Maybe oh my God.
Oh my.
All right,
I don't know. I hate whenever you start talking like that though.
A little challenge out there. Have you ever, I'm not even sure I could do this. What about like a silent meditation retreat?
I was just thinking about that.
So some friends of mine, actually, we just went out for their birthdays, and a friend of mine is actually Darcel. She was part of our little group when we did an online retreat sort of thing. And she is doing it, and she's like,
How
I
many
don't know how
days?
this is
How
gonna
many
go.
days is she doing? Do you know?
It may just be like, I want to say like 1 or 3. I mean, I know that's a big difference, but like it's not like a month long or a week or anything like that. But I think just like a few days.
Yeah.
A friend of mine just did like a 3-day at a place out in Red River Gorge. It's like a meditation center, and it really intrigued me. And he's a meditation teacher and also does like sound healing. And he said it was hard for him. I was like, wow. I mean, if it's hard for him, so I think that Amy, that would be it would be a goal. You
I
could
love
set a goal.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's
That
not
would be
easy.
harder than a 24-hour run, I think.
Yeah.
It probably would for you, but like
I'd be
that's
like,
a really good
maybe do
challenge.
something. Yeah.
I would love to. I have never done one, and I would love to do one.
I haven't either, and I want to also.
All right, maybe we should find a place, and although it might be hard to do it together,
Yeah.
Give it a talk.
that might be really hard. Although they usually have like, big chunks of silent meditation, but then there are, moments sort of where, you don't have to be quiet all the time.
Well,
But
it's kind of like, Amy, it's kind of like what you're already doing, only instead of physically training for a run, you're mentally training for a day of silence or a meditation retreat.
So
Amy, look at Amy.
I
She's
love
like,
Steps. You start small and you do bit by bit.
yep.
Touche. So I love that you guys are making all these plans for me.
We're challenging you.
But I don't think like I can literally be here at our house, like not have TV on, not have music, not like I like quiet, like especially like if it's just the dogs and I, like if Tony's off doing something or whatever, like I am perfectly content being here without noise. Like I love not having noise actually. And like I'm fine not talking, but like if I have to sit, like can I do like a walking meditation or like the whole sitting still and just being like me? I'm like, oh my God, it makes me want to crawl out of my skin.
You could definitely do walking meditation, but there probably is some value in learning how to do a sitting meditation twice. You don't, I mean, you don't have to have your hands in prayer or anything, but
Try
the idea of
right?
sitting
Like
still.
just try sitting. All right. So, because I find this difficult too. Like this is,
I do too, and I love it. I still find it difficult.
but if you just set a timer and just start with, honestly, I know this sounds crazy, but start with like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just sit still, no phone, no nothing. No, you're not working on anything. And you know what I find, like even on my walks, like it takes me a good, I'd say I'm at least a mile and a half before my brain shifts a little and stops being quite so like active. Yeah. So yeah, without buds, without phone,
Yeah, see,
without
I'm fine with like that. Like
yeah.
I don't need I mean, obviously I have headphones in right now because we're doing this stuff.
Yeah.
Like I don't need headphones and usually whenever I run and stuff, I don't have headphones, mainly because
But
I don't
you're
want to
doing
get
so you're running.
murdered by somebody or
You're
hit by a
running.
car or something.
Yeah. So it's the sitting still part that would be really hard for you.
Yeah, like do you guys have any idea how many times I've hit the mute button so that you don't hear my chair squeaking as I'm like moving around all over the place?
I'm pretty twitchy too. Yeah, I definitely have a hard time with that. But
Yeah.
there is huge value. And well, Lara, you know this more than us probably, but like what actually it allows a different part of your, I don't want to call it your brain, but your soul, your whatever, to actually contribute.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it is, I think it is brain, but it's like brain, body, and spirit. It's all three. And it's like you're letting your parasympathetic nervous system take over, which is how your body rests. you can't rest without, if your sympathetic nervous system is in charge, you're not resting, because your parasympathetic is what causes, helps you relax. So when you focus on breathing, if you're sitting still and your mind's racing and you're thinking about all your stuff you have to do, that's not restful. Just because your body's still doesn't mean you're resting.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a dual thing where you've got to have it's not clearing your mind. A lot of people say, I can't clear my mind. You're not trying to clear your mind. You can't really do that. It's not physically possible. Like, it's always going to be doing its thing. The key is focusing on things like breathing. So if you're focusing on your breath and you're noticing how the breath moves, and you're noticing like all the things your body's doing on its own without your interference, that somehow takes you out of that sympathetic nervous system and puts you into the parasympathetic and gives you rest. And it's also okay to start meditation by listening to some meditations.
That's what I was gonna say. So like because obviously am a total newbie, rookie at this. I have tried a few times. Truth be known, it's kind of like the people that say, I tried to run and I hate it. I'm like, yeah, did you really?
Did you
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Or like, I try to eat healthy, but I just can't. I'm like, you can. It's just a
Yeah.
matter. So like, know that I am feeding you the same BS story that people feed me. I'm like, I have tried. Have I put full effort into it? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna call it out. But like, so if I were hypothetically to want to do that, or I don't, the want is not even to choose to do that, because I think it would be good for me.
Uh-huh.
What are my bit by bit steps to start that off?
Well, I agree with Michelle. Start really small, first of all.
But like listening to something, or just like sitting in a room with the lights off?
Probably listening to something first, I think is.
Yeah, you could start by listening to something. And I will say this, that Deepak Chopra
Mm.
was, and I don't know if he's doing them as much now, but you could look it up and see.
Yeah.
They were really good. He had like a 21-day meditation course where every day he would talk a little bit. You would kind of, focus on whatever he had you focus on. He would give you a mantra or chant you could say in your head. And then he would turn you loose for like the last minute or two, and then the bells would chime at the end. And that was a really good way to get into a practice, because you're doing it for almost you're doing it for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So I
So
would
is that just
definitely
like,
look for that and see if you can find it. That's a good way to start. But you can also do like the insight timer.
that's what I was gonna
Yeah,
say, is he
those are
on
good.
there, or is it like his own thing?
He has his own thing.
Okay.
Yeah, and
You
it's
do those with Oprah, right? I remember
he had one with Oprah. We called it Oprah Chopra.
it was good.
And it was, but he also has done, he's done it with many people. He's done like, where they'll, he kind of sponsors it and he'll talk, but they do a meditation with you every day. So you probably can find some that are still free. And then if not, like Insight Timer has a ton of that stuff. And they have courses too, where you can like do maybe a 10-day course, or, they have courses from, 5 days, 2 days, 3 days, whatever you want, like a learn to meditate course. And the really simple way, if you just want to take a minute or two yourself to do it, is to just do like an internal focus on your breath, and maybe do a body scan yourself. So you're focusing on like starting at the tip of your fingers, and you're working your way up the arm, and you're in, this is internally, obviously you're not saying it out loud. And anytime your mind starts wandering, you just notice that, and you go back to the last body part you remembered, telling yourself about. And it might take 3 or 4 tries, and then
Or 30 or 40.
or 40. Yeah. And then the other thing is the
Yeah.
breath. Like you can, and you don't have to sit, you can lay down. You can, walking meditation is a thing, but I think if you're trying to really rest, then And you can just notice anytime that your mind starts taking over. And when that happens, focus back on your breath and just keep, moving back towards focusing on the breath.
I think if I could just go like sit on the beach, that
Well,
would
that is
be
helpful. Yeah.
That is helpful. There's something about the ocean.
yeah. Like even or
Sand.
even just the water, like like when Tony and I went, we got an Airbnb on the water, like, and it was just like a body of water. It wasn't the ocean.
Yeah.
And like I would just sit out on the patio, and especially in the morning. Like I definitely love like the sunrise and all that stuff. Like literally, I'd go out because Tony was still sleeping. I go out on the patio in the morning with the dogs, and I'd just be like, oh, like,
See, that's a form of. I feel like that's a form of meditation right there.
yeah.
Yep.
So I guess we just need a house on the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all.
Just talk to him about that when we're done here.
Yeah. I feel like you're going to come up with a really good plan, and you're going to have a goal of whatever it might be. Maybe it's, I'm going to have, meditation time set aside every day or whatever. And you're going to come up with your phrase and you're going to work it into your life.
Habit stack it.
Yeah.
Where could you? Yeah.
Stacking.
Yeah.
I
Habit
know.
stack it.
Habit stacking.
I don't know if you can do that with meditation though, because aren't you supposed to focus just on meditation?
like I think you can. Like there has to be maybe a space like at the end of one thing before you start another thing. So I don't know what that looks like. Like, I mean, you have things that you do really regularly in your day, Amy, right? Like you have a set, you do.
Right, Amy?
Yeah, you do. So there's got to be, those things have to end and start. And so it's the space in between where you would insert 2 minutes of whatever. Like maybe when you, I don't know what it, maybe when you get home, I don't know if the dogs are too crazy for any kind of calmness, but
for just a minute.
Yeah, right? Like, and literally start there. Yeah. If you habit stack it, I know you can do it because you're good at that.
You can do it.
You can do it.
Yeah, you take a minute or two, start out with a couple of minutes, and pretty soon you'll be up to like, a whole hour.
Yeah.
You'll be ready for that silent retreat.
Right. Let us know how that went.
Yeah.
I guess we should wrap up. This has been
I know. This has been fun. And yeah, we all have a lot of work to do on our intentions. So maybe after the first of the year, we'll share with our
annual.
Yeah.
And how we came up with it.
Yeah. I think that could be a good first, one of our first podcasts of next year. Oh, and
because that gives me a goal. Like,
yeah, there you go.
I have to have it sorted out.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
Have a plan in place.
Yep.
So that we can talk about it for the first of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just so you all know, before we wrap up, our last episode of the year is coming, and it'll be our first full year of finishing. And we're going to have a little fun. It's just going to be year in review with some wine. So who knows what's going to happen?
That ought to be fun.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. I guess we should sign off.
Yeah. You want to try?
All right.
Are we going to do it quick?
Let's do it quick.
Yeah, okay. Who's starting?
You all set good intentions in the next few weeks.
Yeah. And let us know what they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. We want to know what everybody else did too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
Okay. I'm going to do it. Ready? Monkey chatter. Monkey chatter. Who you hang with matters.
Woo! That was
better.
It was better than 2 weeks ago.
That's right.
Much better. Aww.
See y'all.